when I feel like I can do something to change the situation, even in the smallest way, I'm not depressed anymore because I already feel like a person. I feel like someone who has voice and power to change the situation.
Right.
And in that sense, activism for me is healing.
I'm Lily Cornell Silver, and welcome to Mind Wide Open, my mental health focused interview series. Today, I'm talking to Nadia Telekonikova, one of the founding members of the Russian feminist protest band Pussy Riot. Nadia speaks to her experiences in prison, the importance of political activism, and how to take care of yourself while fighting for what you believe in. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy. Nadia, thank you so much for being here. I just want to start by saying how much I admire you. I took a class in high school on protest music and political activism, and I actually wrote a paper about you.
Wow.
I wrote a paper on Pussy Riot, so getting to interview you today is so exciting. I would love to start just by asking, how have you been coping in quarantine?
Well, not so bad. Actually, having in mind that it's a tragedy of global pandemic,
Yeah.
I personally survived it. Like, we're going through it quite well. Because I had a chance to focus on things that I didn't have time to focus on before, like starting from my mental health to just learning new skills, including technical skills, like recording my own vocals. And before, I was like, I'm not sure if I can do it. Maybe there are professionals who can do it better than I. But when you're just confined in four walls, you don't really have much of a choice. So it pushed me outside of my comfort zone in a weird way. So I've been developing. I couldn't say that I've been enjoying it because definitely it's really difficult times for all of us. But it definitely pushed me outside of my comfort zone and made me learn new things. What about you?
I mean, definitely same boat. I think the weight of the pandemic itself is so intense, and especially everything going on in the U.S. has been a lot to deal with mentally, but personally, definitely needed a little bit of a break from day-to-day life. So it has been helpful for my mental health in that sense, but difficult, on other fronts. I mean, just to jump right into it, I have had other musicians on this series, and we've talked about the impact that art has on mental health, but not as much about the impact that art has on activism. So I'd love to talk to you just about that intersection between art activism and your own mental health.
Well, art for me is in itself a coping mechanism, because art for me is the best psychotherapy. Since I was released from jail, I'm kind of fucked up. Well, I was diagnosed with depression and PTSD after I was released from jail, and for a good year, I didn't even go to doctors because I was like, I was one of those people who thought, oh, I'm strong, I can do it by myself. Depression, it's not about me. It's maybe I'm just having bad moods, and so for a year after prison, I was rejecting that it might be happening with me, and then I went to doctor. The doctor was a neurologist, not even psychotherapist or psychologist. And my doctor was like, "Hey, we made all the tests. You're fine. You're good. Your body working well. There should be something in your psyche. There should be something different, somatic. No, it's not somatic. They said it's psychological reasons. Anyway, so they diagnosed me, and so since then I sometimes I'm going through remission, sometimes it's getting harder, but definitely art was really helpful for me to get out of depression. And I've been working with several psychotherapists, but it was I don't know, it was not as helpful. I feel when I'm working with my problems through art, I can help myself and other people as well. For example, a few years ago, I was not cautious enough, and I ended up in psychologically abusive relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been in them for 1.5 years, and I got out of there completely destroyed. I was not myself. I forgot like who I am. I forgot that I'm a feminist. I'm an activist, that I have value. I forgot all the good things about myself because that person made me think that I'm just nothing and he can do whatever he wants with me. So getting out of there, as soon as I gathered enough energy to break up with him, I got out of the relationships and I wrote a EP about abusive relationships and about domestic violence, and immediately I felt much better because I was like, oh, I can actually work on my own trauma and I can help some other people too who might going through the same thing.
Right. Amazing. And I think art is like the most powerful tool in that way possible. You know, no matter what language you speak, no matter what your background is, that it just transcends all of that, and anyone can connect with you on that level through your art. Just to backtrack a little bit for people who may not know, you or know Pussy Riot, how did you end up in prison?
Well, I performed a song in a Cathedral of Christ the Savior, and it's not your normal cathedral. It's more like a trade center. We call it Trade Center of Christ the Savior in Russia because they have luxury shops where you can buy gold and stuff in that cathedral, and there is even a car wash not for normal cars, but for VIP cars. So this is a really, really awkward place, and we went there with a really, really simple message. We wanted to protest against Putin because it was in 2012 and elections were coming up. Elections, if you can call them like that in Russia. We were protesting against the position of women in Russian Orthodox Christian religion because women still cannot be priests, and basically the whole religion revolves around a notion of a woman as a sinful creature whose job here is just to give babies and shut up. Right. So we didn't quite enjoy that. Yeah. And so we performed the song, and not even the whole song, we performed only 40 seconds of the song, and we were thrown out of the cathedral by the guards. And then we just went away. We went home, and after 2 weeks, we were arrested and put in jail for 2 years.
Wow! Oh my God! Yeah, that's crazy intense. That is very intense. So I have your book right here. So you wrote about in reading.
Yeah. Thank you for reading it.
Ever, of course. You write that joy is my ultimate capital. And that you even found joy in prison. So what did your mental health look like in prison, and what were some of the joyful moments, and what were some of the darker moments? Like, how did you cope with your mental health?
The same as in real life outside of prison. My biggest joy is my community, my friends, and my relatives, mainly like all the human connections and animal connections. Yeah. I get a lot of joy from my hamsters. So I'm a really big fan of the book that's called Lost Connections. And the book goes about skyrocketing depression in our modern society, and the reason of that is, according to the author, is because we are losing connections with people who are around us. So we are so atomized, and we experience joy and sorrow by ourselves, and that's not how our species evolved. It's not natural, so that's why we feel trapped, we feel hopeless, we feel powerless. Right. And so the solution for that is to connect with other people. And it actually helped me a lot when I was in jail. I made friends. I made friends with people who I wasn't supposed to make friends with. So according to law, people who once served in law enforcement, they cannot be in jail in the same cell with people who did not, because it can potentially cause conflict.
Gotcha. Okay.
So breaking the law, my prison officials, they put me in a cell with this woman who was an ex-investigator, and they wanted her to report on me. So basically, she had to report on everything that I'm saying, what I'm doing, and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
It was intense.
Yeah.
So you're not just in jail, but you have a person close to you who are trying to pretend that she's your friend.
Yeah.
But over the course of time, after like 2 or 3 months, we became real friends. And she told me about that story, and she was like, yo, the real reason why I'm here is this and that. But because we became real friends, I cannot do it anymore. So I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to tell you, like, what those like prison officials, what the prison wardens are telling me about you.
Yeah.
So she became spy that was on my side.
Oh my God.
And obviously, it's like once the wardens discovered that, they were really, really upset about that. So she got in troubles, and but she felt like it was worth it, because it's like she made an actually humane gesture,
right?
And she chose friendship. And I've seen people doing stuff like that, risking their freedoms, risking their ability to get a parole. One person, she was about to get a parole, but because she was supporting me and she was a friend of mine, she had to stay in jail for a longer period of time because she was punished by the prison officials. And it was really, really dark moment. But at the same time, you realize like how dedicated people are to friendships, so they are willing to risk their freedom to support someone they love.
Right.
And there was something that helped me to go through. But at the same time, hit me really hard because, like you asked me about darkest moments, and the same moments were the darkest moments, because when you see people being punished for being friends with you, it's really intense, because it's not you who are punished. It's the person who you love. And it's so hypocritical, and honestly, just fuck those prison officials who do things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And how, I mean, you said that you have struggled with PTSD and depression since being out of prison. How do you deal with that on a daily basis? Like, do you have practices or coping tools that you use?
Well, exercises help a lot. And I used to be a person who was really, really detached from my body, because I was growing up in the city. It's like one of the northest city on earth, and it's really, really polluted. Small industrial city on the north of Russia. And so effectively you cannot spend any time outside. So I was growing up being a bookworm.
Yeah.
And all I knew was books. That's it. I was not even aware of existence of my body. I was like, what? Yeah, I was like idealist as it gets.
Totally.
So when I got out of jail, and I got some recommendations from doctors, like, hey, like, you really should start exercising, because you feel like really detached from your body and it really affects your mental health. I was like, no, that's not important. I can just choose something. Like, I can decide. I'm strong enough to decide something ideal, like, in my head, and it will happen. And then it didn't, I realized this time that you really need to take care of your body to protect your mental health. And they are going together like Möbius strip. You cannot really separate mind from body, even if you want to.
Totally.
So I did all sorts of stretches, and even in prison, I was stretching a lot, and it really helped me to go through. I looked incredibly weird, because all prisoners around, they were, smoking and drinking this like crazy tea, like crazy strong tea that makes you even high, like this. And I was trying to exercise, to run, to do push-ups, and that helped me. So weirdly enough, I think prison was my first step to be aware of my body and how it affects my mental health. It's kind of meditation. Unfortunately, I'm not that person who can sit and meditate. I'm too distracted for that. But when I run, I can focus on some thought, like, I don't know. It's like running meditations, if it makes sense to you.
Totally. No, completely. Yeah. I definitely I find meditation. I have totally the same issue where it's hard to just sit still and like empty my mind. So doing things like walking meditations or like swimming or even like playing piano for me is like meditation.
Yeah.
So things like that are super helpful.
Playing piano is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
I used to hate it so much when I was a kid, because my mom, she forced me to take piano lessons. And I was hating my mom so much for that. But now I'm like,
Yeah.
Mom, I hate to say it, but I think you were right.
That's exactly. I used to beg. I used to say, "Please let me quit. Let me quit." My mom was like, "You'll be happy one day," and now I'm very happy. Now I'm happy that I do it.
See, we're living in super distracted and super fast world, and sometimes we just don't have enough space within us to process our emotions. And I found out that reading books and just actually like with no distractions, like with like telling myself like I'm not looking on my phone or anywhere for at least an hour, which is like a big fucking deal in our world.
No, yeah, that's an hour is huge. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So, and within this hour, I read the book, like sometimes I think my thoughts, and I realize that I go deeper than I would go if I would allow myself to get distracted easily, because this is our instant reaction in our world in 2020. If we're bored like tiny bit, we're going to check our Instagram. And it became so natural. So I was like, wow, I actually forgot what actually solitude and boredom is. And they're really valid emotions that we need to feel sometimes to go deeper within us.
definitely. And I wanted to bring it back really quickly to, like your mental health within political activism, obviously fighting against the patriarchy, fighting for your rights as a woman, rights of all women. How does that impact your mental health? Like fighting for your own rights, as a group, as a demographic, like that's obviously very intense because it can feel, I would imagine feel pretty hopeless at times. So how did you take care of your mental health within that?
The thing is, sometimes I'm like, am I really a good person to make this kind of advice? Because I find myself so mentally fucked at times. But
Right.
I think I am because like I'm going through phases, and sometimes I find myself really low. But then I have these coping mechanisms to get out of there. So I feel like I can do that. I can gain connection with other people, and realizing that it's not just your struggle.
Right.
Helps me a bunch, because sometimes I feel trapped in something that I call Napoleon complex of an activist, which means I'm here, have to solve all the world's problems. Because when we see a problem, it's natural for us as humans to want to solve it. But the next step should be like, oh, I cannot solve it by myself, so I need to build community. I need to reach out to other people, and they will help me to solve this, because like I'm alone. I don't have capabilities, and I don't have power to deal with this.
Right.
So and just be a little bit more forgiving to yourself in terms of, because sometimes you feel like, oh, I made this and that, and I worked really hard, but I don't see that something has changed. And so then a little bit of historic reading can actually help, because when you read about big, inspiring activist figures, I don't know, like Martin Luther King, you realize that they were depressed at times and they felt hopeless at times, but then you see how much actually they achieved on historic level, and you realize that price of changing history is big. And so if you feel like you wanna be part of it, that's okay to feel sad, that's okay to feel hopeless at times, but then I guess it's important to realize that activism doesn't work according to capitalist ethics. And I write about this in my book, because I see it a lot, especially in activists who just come to the field, I don't know, like who are in activism like for a year. So they still think that activism works according to capitalist economy, which means I'm giving you $1 and you give me an apple. So unfortunately, it doesn't work like that here. So if we participated in 10 rallies, and if you wrote 100 blog posts, it doesn't mean that things will change. Sometimes you can make one rally and it will change the course of history. Sometimes you can make 100 rallies and nothing will change. So what I mean is societal processes, they don't, systemic changes, they don't work in linear ways. And you just have to deal with it. It's like kind of, do you know Chris Hedges? He's so fucking amazing. Unfortunately, not a lot of my American friends know him because he doesn't have access to big TV channels. And mainstream media don't show him, but he's like, I think he's the biggest philosopher of our, like one of the biggest philosophers, political philosophers of our age. And he taught me that you have to keep making stuff as an activist just because of moral imperative, not because you actually expect that you just lower your expectations. Maybe sometimes I don't know. It's like it's really a really difficult issue because like maybe some people might find what I'm saying right now depressing because they will be like, yeah, yo, like why would I even start being an activist if I cannot expect rewards right away? But I feel like we don't have to expect rewards. And like for example, in 2012, after 7, 8, 9, 10, after 5 years of activism, I felt like I totally did not achieve anything. So I've been working hard for 5 years. I spent most of my time not on my education, not on my work, not on anything but on activism. And then I just ended up in prison. Putin was elected for the 3rd time as president. And I felt totally defeated. I felt like, fuck, it's like all work was wasted. But looking back from 2020 and actually talking on a daily basis with all those amazing young queer feminist activists from Russia who tell me every day that Pussy Riot case and Pussy Riot actions were something that actually helps them to become activists. And partly because of our actions, we have right now a lot of young people who are identifying themselves as feminists or queers or who are not afraid to say that they're gays. I feel like, wow, it's at times I felt like I'm totally defeated, but actually we did achieve a lot.
And I think that's so important to talk about right now. I was really excited to talk to you because I think with all of the structural racism and systemic racism that's coming to light in the U.S., it's super important to talk about what the impact that activism can have on your mental health, because it is, as you were saying, something that can feel really overwhelming and really defeating and depressing at times.
Just believe that sometime in the bright future, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, things will change, but we have to push really hard today. We don't have another choice.
Definitely. And in that vein, you wrote your book in 2018, right?
In 16. Oh, no, 17. I forgot myself. In 17. It happened right after Donald Trump was elected.
Right. Okay, so that was what I wanted to ask, because you write about Trump in your book, and wondering now if you would say anything differently and what you think the importance of this upcoming election in the U.S. is.
Well, regarding Donald Trump in this year, I'm not American, so all I can do is just to advise, I guess. Vote against Donald Trump, whatever it is for you. I'm not endorsing anyone who is running for president right now because I don't feel like it, but I feel it's crucial to vote against Donald Trump because I'm so much with Noam Chomsky on this. I feel like Donald Trump is one of the most dangerous politicians in our history. And looking right now at what's happening in California, we've seen those pictures from San Francisco. It's absolutely terrifying. It looks like apocalypse, those orange skies and fires. Looking at those pictures and saying that climate change is not happening makes you an evil person. Yeah. That would be the right thing to say.
Definitely.
So we just gotta get rid of him. And also, as a Russian, I have to tell you that United States has big weight on policies of other countries. Mm-hmm. So Vladimir Putin, my president, who's not really my president, he points at what Donald Trump does a lot. And he points at him when Donald Trump makes the most outrageous, evil shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So putting points in that, and he's like, oh, look, he does it. It means that I can do it too.
Right.
So it's not damaging only for the US, it's damaging for all the world because we are all living in an interconnected society.
Absolutely. And just politics in general have, you know, as you know better than anybody, have weighed so much on my mental health. Like I see the way it weighs on the mental health of the entire nation, and having someone like Trump or someone like Putin in office is, you know, only adds to the depression, only adds to that like existential crisis feeling. This question is from my teacher, Darren, who taught me the class about you and Pussy Riot. And I asked him if he wanted to ask anything. I was like, do you have anything you'd want to say? So we were both wondering if there was ever a point for you where you felt like you had to back off of your political activism in order to take care of your mental health. I mean, I know like your daughter was 4 when you went to prison, right? So like taking care of your mental health, taking care of your daughter, your family. Was there ever a point where you felt like you had to like step away, and was that difficult for you?
Well, for me, activism is a tool to work on my mental health.
Wow.
Because weird, but look, the way I function is when I read the news, and they are depressing.
Yeah.
Most of the times. I feel like I have to do something about this.
Yeah.
And I feel like, what is depression? Depression is learned hopelessness. So hopelessness and helplessness.
Yeah.
When I feel like I can do something to change the situation, even in the smallest way, I'm not depressed anymore because I already feel like a person. I feel like someone who has voice and power to change the situation.
Right.
And in that sense, activism for me is healing.
Amazing. There's a quote from Gloria Steinem where she says that depression is anger turned inwards. And I think that's so amazing of activism as a tool because, you know, I'm sure we all experience a lot of anger towards how things look in society and in our government right now, and being able to externalize that and turn it into political activism is kind of a way to counteract that depression. So I totally hear what you're saying.
Well, it's important to care about your mental health. It's important also not to think about yourself 24/7. And sometimes when you are depressed, that's what you tend to do, and that start to harm you. So activism pushes you outside of this downward spiral, and it makes you think about other people and how you actually can reach out to them and help them. So when you help other people think about something else rather than yourself, and being distracted is a really helpful thing when you're depressed. And also helping other people makes you happy.
Yeah, that's like one of the biggest tools is to step outside yourself.
Yeah.
What is something that's giving you hope right now?
What gives me hope is that I see young people all around the world becoming more and more politically involved and politically aware about important things like climate change, like feminism, like queer issues. And this is something that definitely gives me hope. This is something that I could not see coming 10 years ago or 15 years ago when we started our activism. We were doing what we did 15 years ago, thinking that we will remain just a tiny amount of freaks who are trying to oppose to the majority, who will be conservative. But seeing that it's pretty different today. In 2020, I see that majority is becoming more aware and more progressive, and so I'm really hopeful about our future. But again, we need to act really fast because things like climate change, it's not going to stop, unfortunately, and makes us and give us time to think. We don't have time to think. We just have to act on certain things. So I'm positive about the future, but also I know that we need to start being even more involved in activism. So there are a number of pressing issues that we need to address, like right now.
Yeah, no, that what you said about climate change is, I think, rings true for many issues these days is like there's no more time to wait. And I think for our generation especially, like there's a lot of weight on our shoulders. And I know your daughter's young too, she's growing up in that generation.
My daughter is 12 and she's amazing. She gives me a lot of hope because I was not preachy with her. I was trying not to be. I was cool. I mean, I am cool. I'm like, yeah, I mean, you can choose for yourself. I just give you information. She really supports what I'm doing. She supports Pussy Riot. She is aware of what's happening in her country. She's aware of that there was this poisoning of famous Russian politician Alexei Navalny, who has survived, but he's in critical condition right now. So she talks with me a lot about him, and she talks with me in depth about like all the issues, and I'm impressed by that. So I'm really confident that there are good amount of young people to who we can pass our planet.
Amazing, yeah. And I mean, that's what I've seen just in Seattle. There was a lot of Black Lives Matter movement stuff happening just in my own city, in my own neighborhood, and seeing how much of it was being run by people my age or people younger, slightly older than me was really, really hopeful and awe-inspiring, and good to see. I feel the same way that our generation, where things are in good hands right now.
And also another thing about age, I remember when I was 16, 17, and I was telling people around me that I'm an activist and I care about this and that and that, and nobody treated me seriously. I feel like the situation is shifting. It's still really difficult for young, especially girls, because nobody treats us seriously. And just yesterday I was thinking about that issue. So basically the life of every woman is split into parts. At first they tell you that you're not big enough, you're not grown up enough to care about things and be angry about stuff because you're stupid, as they think. And the second part of your life is when they tell you, oh, you're too old to say things like that. So
right.
I'm slowly going to the second part, and I'm already getting these comments. I'm 30, but I'm getting these comments like, why do you act like you're 15 years old? Like, why are you so angry about certain issues? Like, why are you so radical? At this point of your life, you have to be happy about your kid and, I don't know, like, and cook. So, I mean, yeah, sexism is attacking us. I feel like things are shifting slowly. It's more comfortable for young people to be activists, and it's not so normal to bully them for their age as it was when I was 15.
And you know, as a young woman, like in my own experience, trying to create conversations around mental health and talking about the importance of voting and talking about the importance of racial justice, I receive similar backlash of like, you don't know, you're just a girl. Like, how could you possibly know what you're talking about? Like you're a young woman, and it's like I probably know more than you. We're being
Definitely.
Honest, it's just totally. Yeah, I totally get that.
Fuck them, really. Like, you are smarter than they are, for sure, because they say outrageous, stupid stuff like that. That means that they're stupid. Not you and not me.
Exactly. Thank you so much for being here. I've been so excited about this for like so many days. Everyone I know, like, oh my God, you will not believe who I'm interviewing. So thank you so much. I admire you so much and your activism.
Thank you.
It's absolutely something I strive to achieve. So thank you so much for being here.
Much love to you, and it was really amazing to talk to you.
Thank you. Amazing.